All right, it's been a while. Let's do a quick review of a trade that I took and today's price action and what happened on this Friday, September 26th, price action wise, how to read price action, and how to kind of understand like what the story is, what it did, and how it can be monetized NQ. So starting with price action, right when it opened, what it did is it created a Judas swing. Okay. So it dropped to the downside and it took sell side liquidity right off the bat. Okay. Judas swing just means like a fake swing to the opposite direction of where price wants to go. You can see right after it pushed to the upside and it started taking out buy side liquidity. Okay. One thing I do want to note is the first presentation fair value gap, it did form at 9:30 today. And you can see here, the reason why is if we change to RTH, you can see price when it opened up, it took out buy side liquidity immediately. So all of these highs here and the resting liquidity above it, it has been taken right at the open and it collapsed lower. So when this happens, we can use the 9:30 candle as the first presentation. If not, it's always the 9:31 candle. So you can see here, price opens the downside, created that 9:30 first presentation fair value gap, broke to the upside, took a lot of liquidity to the upside. What it did is it actually respected this fair value gap that formed at 8:36 in the morning. You can see here, it nicely kind of formed to the upside, and then it was really respected well to the downside. It kind of rejected it, broke through it, and then it touches the downside before dropping lower before the open. But again, it's a very well-respected fair value gap. And these are the fair value gaps that you want to just kind of drag out in time and see how is price going to respect it moving forward. You can see what price did here is it touched it once, and then for the second time, it broke through. And then right after that, the candle collapsed and it started taking out sell side liquidity. So all these lows here, including Asia low, it's been all taken by this move lower. So it's taken liquidity to the downside, to the upside, and back down to the downside. And then what price started doing is it created its low of day. And this is actually very interesting. If you were following ICT's teachings over the last 2 weeks of what he was dropping, there was a lot of emphasis put on the daily wicks of the candles and the quadrant levels. So here on the right-hand side, I have yesterday's daily candle. And what I did is I graded that quadrant level. And if you can see here, what price did today is it dropped right down to the mean threshold of that wick, and which is right here at 1027, and then it pushed away, and right now it's still technically closing to the upside. So once price did this, you can see here it bounced off of the mean threshold of the daily candle. It went back up to first presentation, and then what it did is it ultimately consolidated in a very structured manner. And then closer to the afternoon session, price finally managed after 1, 2, 3. The fourth try, it broke above the first presentation fair value gap, the 9:30 opening range. And what it did is it used it as resistance. So you can see here, price attempted to break it once, twice, 3 times. And you can see here, price has a difficult time breaking through the mean threshold of this 9:30 candle. I wanted to take it here. I did hesitate. The better entry of my trade would have been right here, having your stop right below it and then targeting ultimately the target. But again, we're humans, we have emotions. And what I did is I tried finding that next entry. How can I get into price and kind of not let this run without me? So what I saw at 12:24, you can see a fair value gap formed on this candle to the upside. It broke into the downside. You can see here, price was respecting both the first presentation after 9:30 and this one that I have indicated in red here. And you can see it's being respected very well to the downside. And once it broke to the upside and it started respecting it and using it as an inversion, that's when I went long and I said there's a high probability chance that price from here, it's going to go up and not down. So I ultimately went in, and let me blow this up a bit more here. Price pushed higher. There was a bullish order block here. It respected it nicely, expanded once again. There was a change of state of delivery. Again, consolidated while respecting this blue fair value gap that formed. This is where I scaled in with 1 or 2 contracts. You can see it based on the screenshot that I'm going to drop right here. Okay. And you can see where I entered, my scales in, my scale ins, my scale outs. And ultimately this wick right here, it actually tapped me out. And then what price did is it pushed to the upside. And then what price did is it actually started consolidating on the upper half of this fair value gap. Expanded higher once again. I was using this as a 5-minute all this here, this is a bullish order block. Okay. It pushed to the upside. Once it hit this respected, very well respected 1 minute fair value gap from 838, I did a 50% partial. I pulled back lower. I scaled in 2 more, thinking that it's gonna use this as a respected PD array. It pushed up once more. I did a small partial, and then I had my stop loss right below this fair value gap, both this one, and there's actually one more right here. And I thought my stop loss was well protected. But what price did with its wick, which is permissible, it just tapped me out right there and it pushed higher. And then even if it didn't take me out there, it would have taken me down to the downside here before it coming back to this displacement fair value gap here, and then ultimately pushing to the upside. So tricky price action. It was clean. I was happy with my profits. It was roughly $1,500 across my accounts that I managed to pull in. But this is price action that you tend to see. It's a bit less clean. There's still structure to it. It still makes sense. And again, layering ICT's comments for what he taught over the last 2 weeks of these wicks and grading them and using them in price action. Again, start doing that, guys. Highly recommend it. You can see here right now, I've added in these 3 levels. So you can see how price respected the mean threshold. So it's a 50% mark. How it respected this upper quadrant level, right? See here, respected. And then once it broke out of it, again, that was my indication that price most likely is going to go higher and not lower. So hopefully you guys learned something. This is today's trade. Again, it's still going on. Well, it would have, shoulda, woulda, woulda. If I haven't touched my trade, it would have hit full profit. But again, we have to manage our risk accordingly. And I'm happy overall on how I managed it. But, I think next week's going to be a pretty good week. So all in all, that's it for today's review. Hopefully you guys learned something. I think price action today and this week was generally clean. And I will, catch you guys, in the next one. Take care, have a good weekend, and stay safe.